Well, one thing's for sure, as a content creator, it's going to be really difficult keeping up with everything James Gunn has to say on Superman Legacy. Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad and on Instagram, Movies TV Mad X, and on TikTok. Mick isn't perfect, because you know what I'm going to say. Mick isn't perfect. It's okay not to be perfect, okay? Stop filtering your pics and show people how horribly ugly you are. I'm horribly ugly, right? Probably on the inside and outside. But this is me. Let's embrace ourselves, everyone, and stop denying that we all have physical and character flaws. It's okay. Anyway, welcome to today's 30-minute extended video where we continue to talk about Superman Legacy. And you've guessed it, James Gunn is denying the plot leaks we were just talking about in the last video. But he didn't deny all of them. And he also was asked if Superman Legacy was a light or dark movie. I called it. Again, you doubt the word of someone with not many subscribers, followers, and views. But you know I know where the bodies are buried. I told you the movie would both be light and dark. And guess what? He's confirmed it's going to be light and dark. We will get into this within this video. I'm so hyped for this movie. I'm excited. So what did he exactly say? He said there's no Middle Eastern terrorists. I think James Gunn is cleverly playing with words. I don't think there's actually terrorists in Superman Legacy. I think there is an incident in a fictional Middle Eastern country, that's for sure, but not terrorists. He does this a lot. When there's a leak, and a lot of it's true, he kind of distracts from the stuff that probably isn't true, or he just plays with words. He also said the authority isn't in Superman Legacy like weeks and weeks ago, but the plot leak says that they investigate what happens between Superman and these alleged criminals. Let's call them criminals, not terrorists now, right? So it's clear that something happens in the Middle East. Of course, James Gunn could decide doing something in the Middle East right now is somewhat problematic, so he can move it geographically somewhere else. I don't actually think they're terrorists. I think there may be more criminals. Who knows what's going on? I mean, I said yesterday, I believe those plot leaks. It sounds like a viable plot for a movie. It sounds like something a direction James would go down in, and I'm fine with it. It's like the idea of Superman, trying to find more kind of links to his heritage. It's very interesting, because, we're being told that this is not an origin movie, an origin story. And this is why I always tell you, beware of what creatives say to the press. Doctor Who showrunner Russell T Davies does this a lot. At the Doctor Who concert, he said it's the same old show, then recently said it's a totally different show. 1 minute he's saying it's for families and he's saying it's not for families. Look, these people say different things depending on their audience. It's all to cultivate interest in what they're doing. They're good. They're very clever at doing that. Both James Gunn and Russell T Davies know how to get the hype train moving. So, let's get into this. We were told this is not an origin story. By the way, James Gunn hasn't said the whole plot leaks are false. He just mentioned there's no terrorists in the Middle East. So he didn't deny the rest of it. So, as I say, it's probably true. So yes, let's look at this. This is not an origin story, but apparently Superman is looking to find out more about his origins. Yes, he's been Superman for 2 or 3 years, right, in Metropolis. But again, according to the plot leaks, his first major incident in the Middle East reveals him to the rest of the world. So, in a way, this is kind of not an origin story, but at the same time, it also is an origin story. If we go back to Man of Steel, Superman, or should I say Clark Kent, is walking around the world, journeying around the world to find out more about his origins. It's a bit rinse and repeat, isn't it? But it's done in a very different way, because Man of Steel is unashamedly an origin story. And in truth, even though Superman exists in Metropolis, that's if he's even come out to the people of Metropolis yet. That will be another interesting thing as well. He could have been there for years but not come out as Superman there either. I doubt that. I think he probably has, but he hasn't done many things in Metropolis, maybe. He's still a new hero, even in Metropolis. Here's the thing. Even if you come out to the people of Metropolis, the whole fucking world's going to know about it. It's not like Metropolis is this bubble and nobody knows what's going on. I mean, the Daily Planet must be reporting Superman's activities, right? So the rest of the world must know who Superman is. What I think Gunn is attempting to do here is kind of, by revealing him in the Middle East, make him a more national character and someone who is acting again unilaterally like he is in Batman versus Superman. I kind of covered this yesterday as well. There does seem to be some similarities to what Snyder was doing in both Man of Steel and BVS. Now, of course, we can't say that for sure without watching the actual movie and getting more clarification from Gunn in what he's actually doing. So that element of it is obvious, isn't it? So that's that. So somewhat we are getting an origin story, but we're not at the same time. Do you know what I mean? We're not going to see him on Krypton or anything like that, but we could have Kryptonian flashbacks. Be very well aware that we could end up on Krypton somehow in this movie. And according to plot links, the Fortress of Solitude already exists. So we miss out on seeing the Fortress rising. You may get some flashbacks in this movie. As I just said, be very well aware this is somewhat a kind of origin, but not. So, let's talk about the other thing that Gunn clarified when he was asked if this is a light or dark movie. He said it's both light and dark like in real life. He's got a good point there. Life isn't just light, is it? Life isn't just dark. We have so many challenges within the span of our lifetime. So, yes, I called it. It's going to be both light and dark. There will be comedy in this film, and there's nothing wrong with that. I know Snyder fans get upset if a superhero movie is light and has some gags. Of course, I don't like bad gags either. I like to actually laugh when people's telling me a joke, not pretend to laugh just to be polite. But I think Gunn's gags can be hit and miss. Sometimes they're really funny. Sometimes they just don't work. But we will see. But I think this is going to be a very, very serious film with very, very serious messages. That's for sure. So I think, as I said yesterday, Gunn is doing a very unique Superman movie, a very interesting Superman movie. A Superman movie that will have other DC characters in the movie. And I think let's look back at the best of the MCU. People like cameos. But we shouldn't get cameos for cameo's sake. And I don't believe that's why Gunn's bringing in Guy Gardner and Hawk Girl and characters like this. They're being brought and thrown into the mix because they're part of the future of what Gunn is trying to throw in there. But also, as he said earlier, he's not trying to give you homework. He just wants you to watch the movie and enjoy it. It will be mostly about the movie and a little bit about the universe going forward. You can take it how you want to take it. Watching a piece of entertainment should never be homework. It shouldn't be something you need to study. You shouldn't be watching something just because it's part of a greater plan. You should enjoy it for what it is. And, I bring up the Marvels yet again. Why did anyone go and see that film? Because it's part of a bigger tapestry. But it didn't work because people are now realizing that Marvel movies aren't very good. And it isn't enough just to watch a film so you can know that what's going on with the tapestry going forward. And this is why I'm saying you have to be very careful with cinematic universes going forward. Because there was a time with the MCU where people would watch any old shit with the Marvel Studios badge on it. And people are not willing to do that anymore. Common sense has prevailed and people actually shock horror want to see good content and good movies. So James Gunn has really got a big challenge here. They have decided, or should I say, Zaslav has decided there's lots of money in a cinematic universe, and that's why they're doing it. I don't think it's impossible to have a successful cinematic universe, but you have to focus on the movies. It can have that tapestry as well, but yeah, you really, have to be careful what you're doing. Focus on your movie. Focus on each episode of your TV show. The best TV shows focus on the episode, but focus on the continuing arc they're working on within a season. So you don't ignore what you're doing in that episode, right? Friends is a great example, by the way. Sitcom, but it was also a serious dramedy as well. And the arcs of those seasons were mainly about Ross and Rachel, but they didn't dominate the episodes, and there was still a lot of fun, frolics, but the other characters also got their dramedy kind of storylines as well. And that's how successful television series are run. And that, ultimately, is what a cinematic universe is. It's a TV series on the big screen, but you must always focus on that film. Make a movie. Make a movie. Do what, Snyder said it best. Shoot all your shots. And then the downturn of that is finding more bullets to shoot. But that's okay, because if you've got an imagination, you will find bullets to shoot. And I think that's the important thing here. Now, in terms of, people have, as I say, been arguing about superhero movies. Should they be dark? Should they be light? And I think what Gunn said is pretty true, that you can have a light and a dark movie. I think a movie should have an element of tones, different tones. And, some people, like critics, complain, oh, there's too many tones in this movie. No one ever used to complain about that. Let's look at Superman the movie, that both has a jokey light tone, but a very serious dark tone. And I think the darkest moment in Superman the movie is when Lois Lane apparently dies. And for about 2 or 3 minutes, there's silence. It's somber. Superman is just standing over Lois's body. It's really a serious moment from a film that's been pretty light up to that point. And then he screams to the heavens. So that's very dark and serious. And I think that's a great example where you can take something that's rather light and jokey, but still make it on a level. That's a serious film. It's a serious film on Krypton. It's a serious film in Smallville. It only starts getting lighter and jokier once they get on Metropolis, in the Daily Planet, where there's a lot of banter in that working environment. And that's quite right. I think the problem you find in films today that they try and be one thing or the other, and they put a tag on themselves. I think as much as I love the Snyderverse, it did have the tag of being too dark. And I think ultimately, and I've spoken about this yesterday in other videos as well, is that as long as Superman isn't dark and it's only the environment around him that can get dark, that's okay. And I think in Man of Steel, apart from the neck breaking, Superman was optimistic. Clark was an optimistic character. He did smile. He did have great kind of banter with his mother and great conversations. It was, the relationship between him and Lois was quite fun at times as well. And he had interesting dynamics with other characters like the soldiers, the general, the colonel, and I think he was pretty much how you would expect Superman to be in a movie, or even if you were opening up a comic book. It was only when we went to BVS that they really kind of sombered him up because of the story they decided to tell. And I think that's where it got problematic for Snyder and the kind of things that he was doing. But I think the first film, when Nolan and Goyer and Snyder were involved, I think Goyer and Nolan understood that Superman can be an embodiment of, kind of positivity, right, and optimism. But the world around him can be a little bit more darker and a little bit more nefarious. And it's all about that balance. And I think this is the balance that James Gunn will try and strike. That the world around him can be dark. Brainiac can be a dark character. The Authority can be rather ruthless. And all that is absolutely fine as long as Superman himself isn't dark, like the rest of them because he has to be the optimist at the party. It's very interesting that people see Batman as a darker character. Batman actually isn't a dark character if you know your comics. There's been darker versions of Batman in graphic novels like The Dark Knight Returns, but mainly he's been an optimist in his history as well. And mainly in the comics he hasn't killed. But because of the Burton movies and the Nolan movies and now the Matt Reeves movie, there seems to be, and Batman versus Superman, of course, there seems to be this falsitude that Batman is actually a dark, ruthless character. He is ruthless, but he's always been an optimist, and he's mostly always had a no-kill policy. That's the truth. Now, in terms of Batman versus Superman, they gave us a bitter, older Batman, and I get it. Personally, I wasn't offended by that. I enjoyed it because, like Superman, what Snyder was attempting to do, that both of these characters had to earn the right to be the characters we know and love. Batman had to earn back the right to be the character he was when he was younger. And Superman needed to earn the right to be the character we know and love through learning, because he was still very inexperienced in his career of being Superman. And this was the stories that Snyder was attempting to tell. Unfortunately, people didn't have the patience to wait, for a 5-movie journey, for a 5-movie arc. So they go on social media, they start bitching, critics are bitching, the box office isn't what the studio wants, and this is where we are now. It's very interesting to me that people kind of, the Snyder haters ignore the fact that since Snyder left DC, the quality of movies have gone down. The quality of movie making has gone down at DC. Even if you hate Snyder, you must admit the quality of the movies themselves, the music, the production values, the VFX values were much better under Snyder. That doesn't mean you have to like Snyder or like what he did, but you must admit the movies are made in a quick, lazy, shitty way since he left. And I believe that Gunn will look to improve things. I think Gunn is a perfectionist, and when you look at Gunn's movies, the CGI is very good. The storytelling is very good. The choreography is very good. The VFX is very good. So Gunn has, a good kind of ethos when he's making films. It's funny how MCU movies recently have had rubbish VFX, but when we went to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, surprise, surprise, different VFX team to what Feige was using, and a lot better quality in that movie. So there's no question that Gunn's DCU will be better in quality of film and quality of content than Hamada's DCEU, which was only interested in making short, cheap films like Shazam and Shazam Fury of the Gods. Blue Beetle's VFX, though, was a lot better than we had seen in the DCEU for a long time. Still not perfect. And we know that Blue Beetle is the first character in DC Universe, and Xolo Maradona will stay in that role. And I agree with that. No matter what I think of that film and the bad Latinx stereotype they used in that film, I think the actor shouldn't be changed because I think the actor's very good. He's very vibrant. People love Xolo, and I think there's no problem with him remaining in the role, and I think Gunn made the right decision in keeping him. It's interesting, though, they made a big deal about Gunn keeping him publicly. The actor was in interviews talking about the moment James Gunn told him he was staying. We've had no such confirmation about any other of the other DCEU actors playing superheroes. Although Gunn has denied that Gadda is going, and he's kind of said in a kind of way she is, but then they've shot down rumours. She said, Gunn and Saffron have promised me that we're going to work together with a Wonder Woman movie. It's all very, very interesting, isn't it? But they haven't come out and celebrated her continuation in the role, as Diana Wonder Woman in DCU. Like Zolo gets the big official celebration. He gets the, this is when James Gunn first told me. We've had none of that from Gal Gadot. We've had none of that from Ezra Miller. We've had none of that from Jason Momoa. And we've certainly had none of that from Zachary Levi. So because of the lack of the celebratory announcements, and the only one to get the official celebratory announcement that he's remaining, Xolo Maradona. And what's very, very interesting about Xolo is that he doesn't have the baggage that Gadot, Momoa, Miller, and Levi have with the DCEU. He's fresh in. There was no point getting rid of him. And that, Snyder fans have no allegiances to him. That's another reason to keep him, because we know what's been going on between WB and Snyder for a very long time. So absolutely, I think you don't have to be a rocket scientist to now know that Jason Momoa, after Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, he will not continue to play Aquaman unless some kind of miracle happens and that movie makes a lot of money. Then they would have to have do a third one within an Elseworld, in the Elseworld department. I think that's the only way that would work. Then, Momoa could still play Lobo in DC Universe, which is a separate universe. You could do that. But it's very unlikely that Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom will be a success. But this is James Wan, and you just don't know. I just think there's other pictures coming out, both on Netflix, like Rebel Moon. I think Rebel Moon is going to dominate that time, that release period, that release schedule. I just think, even though it's not really going to be in movie theatres and you're going to be watching it at home, we watched the Snyder Cut at home and it caused a lot of hype. Nobody was talking about any release that week apart from Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut. And I think it's going to be the same with Rebel Moon. Of course, some people from the fandom menace don't like Zack Snyder and are trying to go against him now because he once changed his mind about going on Geeks and Gamers over a charity stream or something. Get over yourselves. Zack Snyder is going to make a great movie. I don't care if you're triggered because it's got a female lead. When you represent minorities properly and women properly, it should be done. And if you don't think that women should be represented well in films and there shouldn't be women, female leads in films, then that's a problem with you. We are all human beings and we all deserve our shot, right? So let's not talk silly. Anyway, so I think Aquaman and Lost Kingdom is fighting a losing battle, but who knows? I can't wait to see the theatrical version of that film and review it all for you. That will be coming up sooner rather than later. Very excited to finally see the theatrical version of that movie. But yes, it's pretty obvious to me that Momoa won't play Aquaman again unless, as I say, it's a huge hit. I still have my doubts that Gal Gadot will play Wonder Woman ever again. That's what I feel. What do I feel about Wonder Woman? I think that we need a new actor to play Wonder Woman. I think when Gal was directed by Zack Snyder, she was an iconic Diana Prince. When she wasn't directed by Zack Snyder, she looked very ordinary and she looked the amateur average actress she's always been. But Snyder knew how to direct her, how to get that performance out of her. And unfortunately, others didn't know the nuances into how to get Gal to perform. And it shows in other movies. She's not particularly good in anything else unless she's being directed by Snyder. Prove me wrong. And that proves to me that it was Snyder who mostly directed Wonder Woman 2017 because she gives a really good performance in that film. But Snyder wasn't totally calling the shots in that film because we could tell that they changed the costume to a brighter costume, and that was Jeff Johns. But Snyder had a big hand in that movie. I believe we need fresh blood to play Wonder Woman. I would like to see not another Barry Allen. I don't want to see Miller back again as the Flash, but who knows? He could cameo now and again as Barry Allen. But I'd love to see a Wally West Flash. I think that would be a really fresh way at going at it rather than yet again another version of Barry Allen. We've had a TV Barry Allen, which was hugely successful for a couple of years, and it wasn't so successful in the other seasons. That had nothing to do with Grant Gustin, who was tremendous for 8 years. But I would love to see a Wally West. I think we'll probably give like the Flash a rest for a little bit in DCU. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we will get a Flash, but there's been no mention of the Flash in DC Universe. So I kind of suspect that we won't see him straight away, and he's going to focus on the characters that he's confirmed already and some others that he will be announcing again sooner rather than later. So it's been a very interesting, excuse me, because I don't stop for breath, I don't edit and I don't pause. That's what happens. Anyway, yeah, I think it's been a very interesting couple of days from James Gunn. And the more he talks, the more leaks that come out. It's pretty sure and interesting and intriguing that he is building something unique, that he is making a Superman movie with a difference. A Superman movie that kind of says, this is a new universe, this is a new world. That's what he wants to do. He wants to create the kind of Bruce Timm universe in live action. That's what all the nerds and geeks like. I think if you ask the nerds and geeks and ask them to say, what's your favourite DC media? Is it the live action that we've seen? Is it the DCEU? Is it the Reeves movies? What is it? Is it Nolan? Is it Burton? And they'll tell you that Tim Burton's vision for the animated... No, did I say Bruce Timm or Tim Burton? Let me start again. Bruce Timm's vision for the animated universe is the one that most DC geeks and nerds will say is the best. And I have to be honest, as much as I love the live action stuff, which has been great, people will say, well, DC's been bad. No, it hasn't always been bad. There's lots of great stuff in the DCEU. Superman the movie, Superman 2, a great, Superman 3, solid. I love Burton's movies, but I would say as well that what Bruce Timm done with the animated TV and the movies is better than any other live action within DC we've seen. Smallville was also very unique and outstanding, but when you look at things like Batman the Brave and the Bold, the animated Batman series, which is my favourite Batman television series, I know it should be Batman the animated series, but it's not. I'm sorry, but I think when you look at what Tim created, it's really what you want to see from DC. And if you can translate that into live action, then it's some kind of success story for James Gunn. And as I say, if I ask most DC geeks and nerds, and even the mainstream audience, it will be that kind of universe translated into live action. And I think also that's what James Gunn would like to do in his own way. But just because you're doing that kind of thing, it doesn't have to be, Marvel 2.0. It can have its nuances. It can both be dark and light. And I think pretty much from what Gunn's been saying, that's exactly what he's attempting to do. So yes, I'm really looking forward to seeing the taste of what Gunn is making, because I think it could be very exciting for DC fans, especially with Marvel in the position they are in. But unlike some, I like to taste something before I tell you I like the taste of it. A lot of stands have seen a picture of all these Superman posters in James Gunn's office, and that's great. I also have a room with Superman posters in it. It doesn't mean I should start writing and directing a Superman movie. That doesn't mean I'm being derogative to James Gunn. But stands take things too far. They don't know when to shut their gobs, and that's why they are stands. But I am not a stan. I am a fan. And I'm not going to tell you that what he's doing is bad or good until I've seen it. But that doesn't mean I can't be excited about what he's doing. It doesn't mean I can't still love what Zack Snyder did. I can love it all and say that Gunn is building something new. The way he's come in the circumstances he's come in are not good. We all understand that, but this is how life works. People only lose their jobs when there's problems within situations. Snyder lost his universe, lost his role, because he couldn't agree with the studio, and in the end there was only one winner, but at least we saw 3 brilliant, epic, iconic DC movies from Zack Snyder. Now it's James Gunn's turn to put his money where his mouth is.